Welcome to the Let Your Spirit Guides Speak podcast. I'm Debra Engle, and I want to thank you so much for joining me today for information about living a happier and more creative life with the help of your personal spirit guides. You can find this podcast and many others at sacredstoriesmedia.com. Also, you'll find my award-winning book, Let Your Spirit Guides Speak, on Amazon, at Barnes & Noble, and at your favorite independent bookstores. And please stop by my website, debraengle.com, for information about upcoming events and workshops. That's DebraEngle.com. Today we're going to talk about a topic I love because it's fun and surprising and often delightful. And that's the sometimes small but infinitely helpful ways that your guides can assist you every single day. It could be everything from helping you find things that you've misplaced, like a set of keys, becoming your own personal lost and found service, to keeping you safe and free from harm. Whatever it is, your guides are right there with you every moment to whisper answers and information in your ear and give you divine protection. For instance, imagine that you're driving down a busy freeway, lost in your thoughts. And all of a sudden you hear a voice loud and clear that says, "Exit now." Now you don't know where the voice came from, but it was so insistent that you take the next exit. And just as you're on the exit ramp, you see a collision between two cars in the lane where you just were. If you hadn't gotten out of the way, you would have been right in the middle of it. Well, this happened to a friend of mine. And not only that, but when I told her story on a radio interview that I was doing about Let Your Spirit Guides Speak, the interviewer said, "Yeah, that happened to me too." He had had his own experience of his guides giving him clear instructions to get out of the way just before an accident happened. So it's possible that this has happened to you too, or something similar, an incident where you're in danger and your guides jump in to warn you. It's just one of the many, many ways they speak to us directly, and sometimes with a lot of urgency as they protect and help us. Now, obviously, this is pretty big. Keeping us out of harm's way is enormously helpful. But your guides can and do help you in countless smaller and less dramatic ways every single day. And this is where you can have so much fun with your guides, building their relationship, talking with them, working with them on those little things that may seem insignificant, but that still mean a lot in terms of your happiness and enjoyment of life. You can simply ask them to take care of things to you or for you, imagining that you're delegating to them or that you're asking them very respectfully to be your personal valet. Because honestly, that's what they are. Of course, there's so much more than that too, but they are your team and you can ask them anything. So what I want to do is tell you about a few things that I do every day or that I do frequently. Some of those little practical things that we might be sometimes reluctant or even forget to ask our guides for, but the ways where they can be so helpful for us. Again, the more you ask, the more you work with your guides, the more you're building the relationship. And so that's another reason, important reason, and benefit from remembering to ask, even for the little things every day. So the first one on my list is something that we all do, we all need pretty much every day, early in the day, and that is asking, "What do I wear today?" Now, again, this may seem like something the guides wouldn't be concerned with. You might ask yourself, don't they have bigger issues to deal with than my wardrobe? And the answer is sure, there are bigger issues, but the small ones count too. I don't know about you, but so often in the morning, I'll stand in my closet door, scan my clothes, and I'll think, I just don't know what to put on. I start thinking about the temperature, if I'm going to be at home or if I have appointments. I think about whether the top that I want to wear needs to be fluffed up in the dryer, or whether the shoes that I would need to wear with a certain outfit are going to be comfortable or not. I can waste all sorts of time and energy trying to figure it out. But when I ask my guides what I should wear, it's so much better because they know what the day will bring in ways that I don't, and they can be instantly decisive about it. They can give me the answer in a moment. Maybe I'm going to have an unexpected meeting, and I need to be more dressed up than I thought. Maybe it's going to rain later in the day, and I don't know it at this point. That's the great thing about working with your guides, because they have access to information that you don't. Now, you'll find your own way of doing this, but for me, I find that if I close my eyes, ask the guides to show me what to wear, and then open my eyes, I'm immediately drawn to the right thing. It's just easy. There's no mental fatigue, and I'll be prepared for things that I'm not even aware of. So again, even though choosing your clothes may seem small and inconsequential, it frees up a lot of energy when you ask the guides to do it for you. And that means that you can pay attention to other matters, and so can they. Plus, it just makes your life easier. So that's why nothing is too small to involve your spirit guides in. Another way that I often call on them for help is asking them to make timing work out for appointments. I imagine you've had this situation too, where for me, a lot of times I'll have, say, a lunch meeting, and I'll find that despite my best efforts, I'm running late. Maybe the traffic is slow, or I got a phone call from my husband just as I was leaving the house and needed to check on something for him. Instead of fretting about it, I'll ask my guides to make it work out. And invariably, I'll find myself parking the car at the restaurant for the meeting, just as the person I'm there to meet is parking their car too. Sometimes we even drive in and end up parking next to each other. And then when we talk, I'll find out that they were also delayed, and it all worked out perfectly. Perfect timing. We're at what we often call divine timing, because it truly is. Similarly, some days I'll have a non-urgent meeting on my calendar, and for whatever reason, I need to reschedule. Maybe I have a deadline to meet, or I get an urgent call from a client. Now, I used to feel guilty about rescheduling appointments, but now I just ask my guides this. I say to them, please make this situation work out to the highest good of everyone involved. And then when I talk to the person about rescheduling, I'm not surprised when they say something like, no problem, that actually works better for me too. I call this spirit guide choreography, and it's a beautiful thing to watch. It's that perfection that they set in motion, taking care of all sorts of behind-the-scenes things that we can't even begin to fathom, and that we could never do for ourselves. So another way that we can do that is to ask our guides to put what we want right in our path. A few years ago, a friend decided that she was ready to get a new dog after her previous canine companion had passed away. And she wasn't completely sure of making the commitment to a new dog because she knew the heartache of losing a pet. So what she said to her guides was, if you want me to have another dog, please put it right in my path. Well, I told her story in the book, Let Your Spirit Guides Speak, and this is how I told the story. Turned out that a couple of weeks after talking to her guides, this friend of mine visited a ranch where she was doing some volunteer work. And there in the middle of the road was not one dog, but two adorable dogs, one with short hair and a pointed nose, and the other with long hair and a fluffy tail. Well, she asked around to see who they belonged to, but no one had ever seen them before. They didn't have any collars, no tags. She figured they had come from a nearby farm, but nobody was coming forward to claim them. So 2 weeks later, she drove back to the same ranch, and there were the same two dogs, again, right in the middle of the road, right in her path. Again, everyone she asked knew nothing about them. And so she took them to the animal shelter, waited a few days to see if anyone claimed them, and when no one did, she adopted them. Well, those two dogs have been her constant companions ever since. They're like Zen dogs, quiet, well-behaved, perfect for my friend and her lifestyle. As usual, what the guides were able to give her was even greater than what she could have imagined for herself. For one thing, she was thinking one dog, and she got two, so double the joy, and they were absolutely perfect for her lifestyle and so easy to find and adopt. The guides literally put them right in her path. This shows how important it is not only to ask, but to ask specifically for what we're looking for, or to be very specific in our instructions. Not just show me what it is that I'm supposed to find, but put it right in my path, or make it light up somehow in my vision when I see it so that I don't miss it. That happened for me when I met my husband years ago, when I went to a barn dance where I had never been before and didn't really want to be. But I stood there, I walked in, was standing there in the barn listening to the music, looked across the room, and saw this man standing there who I had never seen before. And it was literally as though he lit up somehow. There was just an energy or aura where I knew immediately that I was supposed to meet him. We met, we danced, he got my number, and 1 year later, after that barn dance, we got married. Now, I know all sorts of things went into that, so much guidance from my spirit guides, but the fact that whenever I think of seeing him for the first time, it's as though I see this burst of light around him. I know it was my guides saying, hey, pay attention, here's the guy. It's like they were pointing their finger at him, and since they couldn't really point their finger at him in a way that I could see, they made him light up. So there are just so many ways that we can ask the guides for their help. Truly, I could go on and on, because you can ask your guides for everything and anything. You can ask them to give you the right words to say in any and all situations. You can ask them to send you to the right store to find a piece of clothing that you're looking for. This happened to me a year or so ago when, in my mind, I had a picture of a skirt that I wanted. I knew the color, I knew the style of it, but I didn't know where to get it. So I asked my guides, and they told me one particular store. Turned out I went to that store, walked to the sales rack at the back of the store, which made it even better, and there was the exact skirt that I wanted, on sale, in my size. I didn't have to run around town. I didn't have to do a big internet search. I just asked, and the answer was there. You can ask your guides to line up everything in your day so that it will go smoothly for you. You can ask them to lead you to the next book that you're supposed to read. Ask them literally everything, and they'll be there to help. So there are 3 general tips that I want to share with you to help make that asking easier and to continue to get great results in building your relationship with your guides. The first one is, again, to remember that there is no request too small or insignificant to ask your guides about. If something would make your life happier or easier, of course they will want to help you, because that's what they're here for. They're dedicated to you. They know you inside and out better than you know yourself. And every time they can help you, it helps them grow too. Just think about the satisfaction you get when you help someone. And then imagine that amplified over and over and over again, because when the guides help us, they get that same sense of satisfaction. But they're also setting into motion things that can affect us positively, not just in the present moment, but in the future too. We may not be able to see those things yet, but they can, and that gives them enormous pleasure as well. So that's the first tip. Just remember that no request is too small or insignificant. The second one is that anytime you're trying to figure something out, stop and ask your guides instead. And for this, I recommend that you really pay attention to the messages that you hear yourself saying in your own head. If you hear yourself literally saying, oh, I've got to figure this out, or why can't I figure this out, or when am I going to figure this out? Stop yourself. That's your ego talking, because your ego does want to try to figure things out. It wants to be in control. It wants to fix things. It wants to find problems that it can find solutions to. It's very much engaged in making life hard and making it difficult and even suffering along the way, because that's what gives it its identity. But you don't have to live that way. Your higher self knows that there's a different way and a better way, and that is to ask your guides and trust them instead. We get so fatigued. We use so much mental energy trying to figure things out. So the best words I can give to you are just stop it. Ask your guides to do it for you instead. But the important thing is that you do have to remember to ask. So remind yourself throughout the day. Maybe set an alarm on your smartphone for every hour, and every time that it goes off, stop for a moment and see if there's something that you want or need to ask your guides for. Get in the habit of, when you wake up in the morning, ask your guides for the kind of day that you want to have. whether you want it to be a productive day or a playful day or a joyful day or a loving day, whatever it might be. Ask for their help every time you walk into a different room or a different building, or that you get into a different vehicle. Just find ways to set up reminders for yourself until talking with your guides becomes so habitual that you don't need the reminders anymore. So that's the second one. Just anytime that you're trying to figure something out, stop and ask your guides instead, and give yourself reminders so that you remember to ask. And the third one is to say thank you to the guides a lot. I probably say it dozens of times a day because I credit everything to them. Every day, every conversation, every situation, it's all a collaboration with my guides, and I couldn't do any of it without their help. So I thank them for everything. Now, not only does this forge a strong relationship with your guides, but it also puts you in the practice of noticing what goes right in your life every day, the little things that are so easy to overlook. Like when you're driving down a busy street and you're in a hurry and all of the lights turn green just as you approach them. Or you've got a big bill due and you get the check, the money that you need to cover that bill, just exactly on the day when the bill needs to be paid. There are, again, countless ways, countless stories of how these things happen. The thing is that we have no idea how intricate the spirit guide's choreography is because we can't see behind the scenes. We can't see what it takes to make everything work out so perfectly. So even when you can't yet see the results that you want, thank them for the work they're doing on your behalf, knowing that your team is always, always working to make your life be better. Now, I want to stop there and leave more room or more time today for the visualization that we're going to do, because this visualization, too, is a wonderful tool and a wonderful way to ask your guides for help. My guides gave me this visualization years ago, and I've used it over and over again, especially when I'm feeling overwhelmed or tired. It helps me on every single level, physically, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually, and I know it will do the same for you. Now, before we get into the visualization, I just want to remind you that when the visualization is over, the podcast will be over as well. And what I would invite you to do at that point, if you're in a place where you can, is to get a piece of paper and a pen, or sit down at the computer, speak into your phone, whatever's convenient, and record anything that came to you through this meditation that you want to remember. These meditations, as we've talked about before, are very much like dreams, and if we get very far away from them, we quickly forget the message that they had for us. Our conscious minds forget, even though the message is imprinted on a soul level. That's why it's so helpful to write these things down, go back to them, work with them, ask your guides about them, and keep learning from them. Plus, this is a visualization that I really encourage you to do frequently whenever you need it. So before we get into the meditation, I do want to say thank you again for listening. I hope you enjoyed it. And I want to say that there is so much more to come in this series. So don't forget to subscribe to the Sacred Stories podcast stream on iTunes. And if you'd like more information about your spirit guides, please pick up a copy of Let Your Spirit Guides Speak through Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and your independent bookstore. Also, I'd love to hear any questions or experiences you have about meeting and getting to know your spirit guides. You can find my contact information on my website, debraengle.com. Now, with that, let's move into the meditation. What I'd like you to do is to sit very quietly and start taking in several deep breaths. Close your eyes. Get comfortable wherever you're seated. Shift in your chair a bit if you need to find that sweet spot of comfort. And then take in another deep, deep breath. And let it out with a sigh. If you feel any fear or blockage or fatigue in your body, just breathe into that part of your body, breathing in love and light and healing. And then exhale anything that no longer serves you. Making space for a new experience. And allowing yourself to become more and more relaxed. And now, in your mind's eye, see yourself standing with a pack of burdens on your back. See them sitting on your shoulders, piled high. A whole stack of burdens. Start to look at them closely and become aware of what's in that stack. It could be obligations or expectations. Things like your child's dentist appointment or the presentation you need to do next week. It could be the family dinner you're organizing or the roof that you need to have repaired or the problems your child is having in school. Know that they can be little things too, cleaning out the kitchen cupboards or taking the car in for an oil change. Just become more and more aware of that stack of burdens on your shoulders. Tuning into what those burdens are for you. Know that you may also be holding on to other people's needs, people who cling to you in an unhealthy way, or whose worries you've taken on as your own. That stack of burdens can be everything from your to-do lists, expectations, worries about what comes next. Just feel the weight of them on your shoulders. You may be surprised by how much of a burden they are, that you've been carrying them and you haven't even realized how much they drag you down. And now imagine that your guides are standing right behind you. Say hello to them and thank them for being here to help. See them opening up a huge duffel bag and spreading it out right behind you, the biggest duffel bag that you've ever seen. And now start gently shrugging your shoulders, casting off all the burdens weighing you down, so that they fall into the guide's duffel bag. Feel the relief as the items start to cascade off your shoulders. And see the guides helping to catch and direct the items into the bag. Keep shrugging, shaking off everything you've been holding on to. And pay attention to how you feel as the burden gradually starts to lighten up. Know that you get to shrug off all of it, the entire pile that's been sitting on your shoulders or that's been strapped to your back. If there are any items that you're holding on to, ask your guides to gently take them from you and set them in the bag. Trust that everything you've been holding on to is in safekeeping, and that you are free to detach from the burdens physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. Now check to make sure that your shoulders and back are completely free of burdens. You may feel physically lighter or less fatigued. You may find that aches in your shoulders or back have gone away. Now see your guides closing up the duffel bag, pulling on the drawstring, and taking the duffel bag into their own hands. And hear them as they say to you, any burdens that are not yours to carry will be returned to their proper owner. Any items that you need to take care of will be given to you when you need them. And any relationships that have been draining your energy will be healed so that you can interact in a healthy way. Take a moment to thank the guides for their help. If you feel any guilt or false responsibility for giving up those burdens, ask your guides to heal that fear in you now. Know that you can go through the rest of your day feeling free and liberated, and that your guides will instruct you where to put your attention and energy from moment to moment. All is well. Now take in a deep breath. Let it out with a sigh. Take in another deep breath and let it out. And then very gently and slowly, and as you're ready, open your eyes, come back to your space, and record anything you'd like to remember from your experience.